So, you're a beginner starting to play around with some lighting, and you're thinking, what can I get on a budget that will be good value long term and serve me well? Firstly, let's understand the type of lighting you might be investing in before I recommend actual products, because this stuff is a bit more important. The three things I'll introduce is a key light, backlight, and a fill light. The key light is your main source of light on the subject, often diffused with a softbox or through other diffusion material. The backlight is, well, it's a backlight. It will help separate your subject from the background and add a little bit of flair and pop to the image. And lastly is the fill light. This is often used to fill in any darker areas on the subject which are just a bit too dark and you want to bring up the levels on the subject. Usually you can do this by bouncing the light coming from the key light off a reflector or another white board. This is the cheaper way to do it, as you don't need to invest in a whole other light. One thing to take note of here is when you do set up your camera compared to your lights, if you want to get a more cinematic image, you want to make sure your camera is on the shadow side of the subject. This means the key light and the camera are opposite sides from each other and will help create depth to your shot. Otherwise, if you're on the same side of the line with the camera and light, it will look like this, which is, definitely a bit more flat. So using these three things, we can set up 3-point lighting, which is standard lighting for really any subject, whether it's a person or even a product. But honestly, you could just start with a 2-point lighting setup, a key light and a backlight, and you can skip on the fill light for now. Really, it just depends on what you're actually shooting and how you want your shot to look. There is no one perfect way to light your scene. Before I get into the gear that you could get on a budget, let's have a look at how these lighting setups can actually be used in your scenes. This shot here is like an interview shot or could be used for YouTube as well. Any sort of talking head video, this lighting can apply really well. In this scene, I ended up using the window as my key light, so that's one less thing you have to worry about if you want to save money, is just to try and use your natural lighting. So I set up this little dialogue scene between me and my sister, and we're just at the table, and as you can see, we're both mainly lit by the window key light, but I also added a backlight just to get that separation between the subject and the background. And this scene here is supposed to be just like a music video or a creative setup. You can kind of do what you want, but it's still using that 3-point lighting. So I've got the key light. This time I changed the backlight to a warmer color so we could just have a bit more fun with it. And then I also added a little bit of a fill light. But honestly, in a lot of these shots, and in most case scenarios for me, I personally don't even bother with fill light. Because I don't know about you, but I'm usually in a white room or a bright space. So there's going to be natural light bouncing off everywhere, and it's often not too dark for me. Okay, now probably what you're actually here for. What is the gear that you should get on a budget? Depending on how dedicated you are with what you're creating and how much you want to invest, you still probably don't want to go too cheap with what you're buying. Otherwise, you'll be sacrificing heavily on the build quality and also the light quality. I'm not supported or sponsored by Amaran. I've bought their products myself and I use them myself, but I do recommend them. I've got the 200D and the 60XS of the Amaran lights. So the 200D is usually my key light and the 60XS is used for the backlighting or something else in the background. But there are so many other budget brands or even just other brands out there that do light fixtures at affordable costs, and they're basically all the same type of lights and models anyways. Brands like Neewer and Small Rig and stuff you find on Amazon can all do the trick very well these days, and it's great to see. So let's build up a quick affordable set that can get you started with a key light and a backlight. Firstly, I recommend something like the Amaran 60XS as your key light. Now, it doesn't have to be from Amaran specifically. You might be able to find a cheaper model out there from a different brand like Neewer or Small Rig, but it's basically going to be that same light, 60 watt and bicolor. If you want to save that little bit extra money, like $50 or whatever, and just go the daylight balanced light, that's all good. But I would recommend just spending that extra $50 or so, whatever it is, to get the bicolor capabilities, just because you can have a bit more fun with playing around with some warmer and cooler colors and you're not fixed to a straight white light. And to go with that, some diffusion, I would just get a little softbox or something like that to get you started. Or if you want to save some money on diffusion, you can get bed sheets or shower curtains, and you can make up sort of like your own rig and just put up a sheet in front of your key light, and you can just punch the key light through that, and it should be enough to diffuse your light. For the backlight, I recommend just getting started with like a little RGB light. That can do the trick. I'll show you very soon how it looks with this sort of setup, but it will have enough output to get you started just for a little backlight, and plus you can use it with all the colors and you can start experimenting with colors and stuff to make your scenes a bit more interesting. But that should do the trick for now. And finally, you need some light stands to put your lights on. Now you don't have to get the ones I'm showing on screen now. You can find cheap alternatives that are probably going to be a bit more flimsy and will break easier, but I thought the ones that I put on the screen are just a bit of a nice middle ground, stainless steel or whatever the fuck they are, and should do the trick for a while. They're the ones that I have, and I've had them for many years now, and they hold up pretty good. So here's what that looks like using similar gear. I got the 60XS as my key light with a softbox and a little RGB light for the backlight. It's a great start and will do the job until you feel the need to upgrade. So to wrap it up, I think it's great to start with getting a key light. If you watched my recent video from last week, you would have seen how much you can do with lighting with just one light. Then you can invest in a second light to use as a backlight or other accent lighting in the background. Obviously, this all depends on what you're shooting and why you need it. But for most beginner cases, this is going to be a great start for your YouTube channel or little films that you want to make or anything like that. So keep practicing, keep experimenting and creating, and you will quickly level up your lighting game.